Welcome back everyone. Hi, if you're new, my name is Tori and today is the big one. This is my favorite video of the year, the most exciting video of the year. These are the best books that I read in 2021. I cannot believe we're here again. So unlike previous years, this list was not, unfortunately, it was not hard to put together. Maybe the book that I have in the 10th spot could have gone to one or two other books. Actually, I know it could have gone to one or two other books, but other than that, 9 through 1, it was kind of a no-brainer. Like every book on this list it kind of melted right into place. But finally with this video, I feel like we can put all of the DNFs and unhauls and all that just behind us, lay it to rest, and focus on the 10 books that were just phenomenal and were complete standouts in every way for me this year. So if this is your first time watching one of my best of the year videos, just really 3 quick things of note. The first is that I always do a top 10 list. I've been doing this for several years now and I've been sticking with it. I've mentioned this before. I think it's a clean cutoff number and it just really forces me to sit down and go through, relive my reading year and really contemplate, okay, which ones were the best of the best of the best. And so I think 10 does that and I really enjoy that. So we're just gonna continue on with tradition at this point. And the second thing is that these books are ranked. I enjoy that. So the 10th book that you're gonna see is the 10th best book of the year, and then we're gonna work our way down to what is, in my opinion, just one of the greatest ends to a trilogy that I have ever read. So we're gonna go with that. And then the last thing that I want to mention is that this list does not include the same author twice. I don't include multiple books in a series and I don't include rereads. I feel like that's fair, especially with multiple books in a series. Like if I've read 5 books on The Expanse and I absolutely loved 4 of them, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of redundant for a series to take up like 4 out of 10 spots. Everything on this list was brand new to me in 2021. Every author appears one time and that's about it. I'm gonna just keep this intro as short as possible. This is it. Welcome to the best books of 2021. I hope you enjoy and let's get started. So coming in at number 10 on the best books of 2021 is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this is very hard to read. In this, we're following our main character Vanessa in 2 different time periods. We're getting her in her her present day narrative, but we're also getting flashbacks of her when she was a young teenager. Let's face it, she was a child at this boarding school. And in these past chapters, we are seeing the relationship that Vanessa had with her teacher at this school. In our present day, adult Vanessa is really trying to grapple with or reconcile the relationship that she had with this man to who she is now, how she feels about it now, and the allegations that have come out against him. It's just a really heavy and honestly difficult to read book. In those past chapters, Kate Elizabeth Russell, she does not gloss over those scenes that Vanessa had with her teacher. Some of them we get in kind of excruciating detail, and some scenes will actually kind of make you physically sick to your stomach reading those chapters. And then in our present day though, what I really appreciated about the narrative in her present day is that in a lot of ways Vanessa doesn't know how to, we know it negatively impacted her emotionally, mentally, and just in the way she moves through life now. We know it impacted her, but just being inside her head in those present day chapters and how she's really trying to deal with that, it's so emotionally heartbreaking to read about, because there are women coming out against this teacher, and then there's journalists trying to get Vanessa's statement on the issue that happened all those years ago. And in a lot of ways, Vanessa, she's asking herself, well, was I really a victim? It was consensual. I thought I loved this professor. It's a lot. It's a lot in here, but I think Kate Elizabeth Russell, she handles it so unflinchingly, but at the same time, I don't know, the story just really resonates with you at the same time. So I highly recommend this. But again, this is an extremely sensitive subject matter, so definitely not for everybody, but if this does sound interesting to you, it is, in my opinion, a must read. Coming in at number 9 is Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor. And this is a book that just completely, first of all, it took me by surprise. One, and then just the fact that it has stayed with me as long as it has. This is a book that has just really crept up on me to leave kind of a lasting impact. This is my 4th novel this is actually a novella, but it's my 4th work at this point by Nnedi Okorafor. I think Nnedi Okorafor does some incredible work in a short space like a novella. Just the scope of this story and our main character's narrative in here, I think, is just extremely impressive to be so small. So this book takes place in futuristic Ghana, and we're following this young character named Sankofa, who is known as the Daughter of Death. And Sankofa has been traveling through different towns and villages for so long, and every place that she goes essentially ends up in destruction. And so we're following her through this journey, through her walking through these towns and villages, but she's also in search of something much greater. So the narrative in a lot of ways just feels very winding, very meandering, but at the same time, the way that Nnedi Okorafor writes it, you feel so close and so emotionally attached to Sankofa just almost immediately. So I love that aspect of this. Even though this is so small, I think something like this really showcases Nnedi Okorafor's world building, her storytelling skills. I really do think they flourish in a novella like Remote Controls. This was amazing. Again, this is one that has really crept up on me as the months have gone on, so I highly recommend this. I think this is actually a great place to start with Nnedi Okorafor. I think a lot of people, myself included, do tend to start with Binti, but this is also just fantastic. So highly recommend this, and I just can't wait to read more by Nnedi Okorafor in the new year. So coming in at number 8 might be a bit of a surprise because I've only mentioned it twice, once in a book haul and then once in a wrap up, but that is none other than In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a work of nonfiction, and this was my first work by Machado. This was just extremely powerful in nearly every way possible. I think more than anything, what I loved about this story, and it's weird to say the word love when talking about a memoir like this because it is so heavy and it's dealing with some pretty heavy subject matter, but I am really in awe of just how raw it is and how just incredible the structure of the story is. Machado is recounting this toxic and abusive relationship that she had with this other woman, and she's using each chapter of this story to kind of examine that relationship in different ways. And so because of that, throughout the story you're getting their relationship in snippets and just really crucial, you know, relationship defining moments, things that took a turn. For example, we have things like dream house as time travel, dream house as haunted mansion, dream house as deja vu. And so each chapter like that looks at the relationship from a different angle and just from a different moment in time. The writing is so incredible in this because it's told in second person, and I've mentioned this before in my wrap up, but it works so well in the story because you feel like you are in the midst of that abusive relationship, but also I think Machado did that, or maybe she didn't, but I think it works really well to distance herself from the story that's being told, to give her some perspective so that she can tell it as powerfully as it's done in this memoir. One of my favorite elements of this book, structure-wise, is this section called Dream House as a Choose Your Own Adventure story. And Machado has just really reached this breaking point, this point of fear of doing something wrong, and you're just kind of wrapped up in all of those emotions at the height of that choose your own adventure moment. There's a scenario that happens, and based on what you would do in that situation, Machado is telling you to flip to different sections in the story, and then depending on that situation you have to flip back. So just there are so many amazing things, just from a writer's standpoint, there's so many amazing things going on here in terms of the way that the narrative is being told and the way that that structure is being used to amplify all of the problems and the abuse within the relationship. I thought it was incredible. So this is definitely one of the standout reads for me of 2021, and I, again, like the other two so far, highly recommend this. So coming in at number 7 is one of the first books that I read this year. I think this was no, it wasn't. I think this was like maybe the 4th book that I read in 2021 and the first one that early that's making this list. And that is none other than Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This was just even thinking about this book now, all these months later, it is just so good. I had such an amazing time with this story. This is actually the only YA novel that is making this list this year, and this was just fantastic. Just even aside from the fantastical aspect of the story, which obviously we'll get to and which was obviously also really incredible, I love the way that Tracy Deonn weaves this legend of Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table just so seamlessly into this story. It was kind of mind-blowing actually when I realized what was going on. So in this is no spoilers, this is all in the synopsis. So in this, we're following this character Bree, and she recently lost her mother, and she falls in with this group of students who are a part of this order. And the students in this group, they are descendants of the Knights of the Round Table. And so Bree falls in with them, and the more that she starts to hang out with them and be accepted into this world, more secrets start spilling out that maybe her mother's death wasn't an accident, and just things start to come to light about her own history and her female ancestors and the women in her past. And I love that aspect of the story so much, that strong familial aspect and how your ancestral history plays into your present day life. And I think that is just woven into this story so incredibly well. And so there's also two magic systems that are happening in the story that are kind of working simultaneously. It's good. It is good. I was hearing so much hype about this last year, and usually I don't really give into hype, but I kept hearing about this, and so I finally picked it up very early in 2021 and just immediately, not immediately, but like very quickly started to fall in love with Bree and her story and these characters. I don't know when book 2 is coming out, but I am really looking forward to book 2. By the way that this ended, there's so much at stake that's gonna need to play out in book 2, so I can't wait to see how Tracy Deonn is gonna handle that in the sequel. So this is, go read it. Go read it. Coming in at number 6. This one actually might be the surprise that it's not a little bit higher, but that should tell you that the top 5 are just even more amazing. So coming in at number 6 is Velocity Weapon, and this is by Megan O'Keefe, and this is the first book in the Protectorate trilogy. This is a science fiction space opera. Oh, this is amazing. I loved Velocity Weapon so early into the book, and that feeling just continued to grow and grow the more that I made my way through this book. And by the end, I was just like, I need this story like in an IV. Like it's that good. I could not get enough of it. These characters and just the world building in this story, the politics is all so good. It's just so fun and twisty definitely, but it's such a fun and just kind of page turner sort of read. So in this we have our two main characters. So in our first perspective, Sanda, she is just this, she's a fighter. So she was in this major battle that happened, and so things went wrong, everything exploded, but Sanda luckily was evacuated into this escape pod after this battle. And she wakes up though on this enemy ship, and when she wakes up, the AI of the ship, Barrow, tells her that, oh yeah, everything that happened, that battle you were in, that was over 200 years ago. It's not a spoiler, that's in the synopsis, but that's like, that kind of hits Sanda really hard at the beginning, like how is that even possible? What is going on? And so in our second perspective, we have Sanda's brother, Biren, and he is a part of this world that is the Protectorate. These are like the keepers of the society, and so Biren, he's kind of moved up the political ranks enough to become the speaker for the society. But as Biren has been moving up these ranks, there is this distress signal that has been kind of blinking in the distance, and so Biren becomes determined to find out what actually happened to his sister, and that just takes him down this just twisty and dark political rabbit hole, and it's so good. So in Biren's perspective, that's when we start getting a lot of the political intrigue of the world, a lot of the world building. And then we also have another perspective that we don't get as much throughout the story, but we're following this young criminal who, her story takes place in a different part of the system, and I'm not gonna spoil it, she has her own thing going on. I've realized over the years I'm not a huge fan of books that are told in multiple POVs, because a lot of the times I just feel like a lot of the POVs sound the same. Some of them are kind of unnecessary, but Velocity Weapon is one that I think just multiple POVs work so well in this story, and just the way that Megan O'Keefe weaves them together and brings them to, oh, it's so good. And I think it is one of the strongest starts to a series that I've read in the past year, and just I loved it so much. So I can gush about Velocity Weapon forever. So yeah, this was fantastic. Go read this. We're down to the top 5. This number 5 really blew me away. First of all, I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, and by the end of it I was just speechless. This was amazing, and that is Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is book 2 in the Red Rising saga, and I cannot tell you how much fun I had while reading this book. I think Golden Sun is such a perfect example of like being able to clearly see an author's writing progress. This was so good, just from a writing standpoint, just from a storytelling standpoint. This is one of the strongest sequels that I've read in a long time. I don't know what else to say about this. It was such a great sequel. I think a lot of the problems that I had with Red Rising, like once I revisited Red Rising, I did really enjoy it the second time around, because I don't know what happened the first time I read Red Rising. I didn't enjoy it. I thought our main character Darrow was just like this kind of cookie cutter, perfect character. I felt like there was no real reason why he was chosen to be the chosen one. I had a lot of issues with Darrow's kind of like stilted personality in the first one. His lines of dialogue didn't really flow very well. However, Golden Sun just fixes that and does so much more, in my opinion. Like, this book blows the world open of Red Rising. We knew the world was, you know, large in the first book, but in this one we're traveling to different planets. There's battles happening on spaceships. There's the politics and betrayal in this book is unreal. It is so good. I love in sequels when writers can open up the world and make it feel natural. Everything that happens in this book made sense for the story. Just the things, the reveals, the twists, everything that came out just all flowed so well, and it was just good. It was just good. I don't know what else to say. I just picked this up because I was like, I need to make some kind of progress on my series goals for the year. I wasn't really doing too much over the Thanksgiving holiday, just like relaxing. And I just picked up Golden Sun and binge read it, loved it. The ending was unreal, and I need Morningstar. I have Morningstar. I'm gonna read it soon. But Golden Sun was the chef's kiss of sequels, if you will. Coming in at number 4 is Middlegame by Seanan McGuire. I love it. I love this book. This also is one that really took me by surprise while I was reading it. Of every book that I've read, this is probably one of the most complicated to properly describe. There's honestly just way too much happening in this book, but Seanan McGuire makes it all make sense while you're reading and makes it all just work. So it works so well. We have this doctrine of ethos, and the doctrine essentially has these two branches, math and science. And so the foundation of the story is that these alchemists are trying to create the literal embodiments of those two disciplines. And so they've been trying all these years. They've been creating these children to, you know, embody math and science. And so we're following two of these characters, Roger and Dodger. And Dodger is extremely good at math. Roger's the one who is great with languages. And so in the story, it's said that if you can create the embodiment of these two disciplines and really like hone them and get to the root of them, you can control reality. You can control the world, do whatever you want. And so Roger and Dodger are the living embodiment of these two things, and they have to be kept apart until the right moment when they can finally come back together and these alchemists can do with them what they want and take over the world. But as you keep reading, the story more so becomes about Roger and Dodger's relationship. They've been kept apart since they were young, but once they realize that they have a connection with each other, it's almost like they can't stay apart. And so you're getting them through the years and watching them grow, and it's so good. It is just, I love them. I fell in love with them so much. I just want the best for these two kids, and just you follow them pretty, you know, well into adulthood when they do have to come together and things just get really dicey. But I love their relationship so much. I'm a sucker for like family dynamics, sibling relationships, that sort of thing. So I think it just works so well in here, and it's really, the story is really about them, and just the way they navigate their everyday lives with these, you know, with these abilities that they have, and just the fact that they're so great in these two disciplines. We're getting that throughout the story. And even the dynamic between the alchemists that have been watching over them, I love it. I love their interactions. It's so good. All right, this is it. Welcome to the top 3. Coming in at number 3 is My Soul to Keep by Tanana Reeve Dew. Words cannot express how much I loved this story. This is my first experience with Tanana Reeve Dew. I am so excited to pick up more of her work in the new year. I have so much on my list, specifically the sequel to this. This story was just a work of art. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just a work of art. The character work in here was amazing. The story itself it can feel kind of slow, but it really hits you the more that you follow this family. It's a work of urban fantasy, horror, however you want to describe it. I'm not good with the the subgenres of horror. But in this, we are following this woman, Jessica. She's a journalist. And then our other main character in this, actually, like, he's the main character, is DeWitt, or his everyday name with Jessica is David. And so we're following David, who is an immortal being. He has been alive for so long, but I've mentioned this before. What I really love about this story is that David is not any kind of like paranormal creature. He just is an immortal man. He's lived in the world as an immortal man for centuries at this point, and he's experienced so much throughout his life, and he's fell in love, and he's experienced just so many things come into being into the world. And we finally meet DeWitt, though, once he is settled down with Jessica and their daughter Kira. At the same time, DeWitt still has this obligation, if you will, to his brotherhood, and just we see how that gets in the way of their relationship and their marriage. And you're just really following the story through that, and how much DeWitt struggles with being this immortal being, and knowing that he has this wife that's going to outlive him and this daughter that's going to outlive him, and it's happened before. And it's really a story about that, and all these mysterious things begin happening in Miami. And I love the fact, though, that you, the reader, always know like what is going on, because DeWitt is behind a lot of it. But it's almost like you're waiting for Jessica, who I mentioned is a journalist. You're like waiting for her to catch up to the story, and that in itself is so exciting to read about. Usually I don't like that in stories, because it can feel kind of like, okay, like when is our other character gonna figure out what's going on? I'm tired of being in the know this whole time. But the way that Tanana Reeve dude does it, it keeps you in suspense, because you're like, oh my god, is this when she's gonna find out? Is this when the story is going to take a turn? So that in itself was it's so exciting, but it's also just so heartbreaking to watch, DeWitt struggle as much as he does. And this book is really dark, actually. It didn't bother me too much while reading it, because I kind of enjoy this kind of like urban fantasy or horror. I love this. I really can't find a thing that I didn't enjoy about the story. So I cannot wait to read book 2. This was phenomenal. So now we're finally down to the top 2. This next book, it should be just honestly no surprise. If you've watched at least 3 of my videos throughout the year, you might already know what this is. I have gushed about Ring Shout non-stop in maybe not non-stop, but like a lot. I feel like I have been talking about Ring Shout all year long, and rightfully so. This was just unreal. There are just certain books that could not have been written by anybody else other than the author who wrote it. Like, it's just, there's no way. This book could not have been written by anybody else except P.J. Lee Clark. This was incredible. It doesn't even feel like I read this in 2021. I read this earlier in the year, and it has just been on my mind all year long. The story takes place in an alternate version of the Jim Crow South, and our main character Maurice is a monster hunter. She hunts Ku Kluxes, and Ku Kluxes are demons that inhabit the bodies of KKK members, and only Maurice can see these, and her band of other fighters, they go out and they slay these Ku Kluxes. And it is just, again, no one could have written this except P.J. Lee Clark. It's truly phenomenal. But in this, there's also this bigger plot to just kind of destroy everything. And so Maurice, it becomes up to her and her, I guess, resistance fighters, if you want to call them that, to handle the problem, stop these Ku Kluxes. But there's so much that happens in here. I think this could be considered a work of horror, but there are so many fantastical elements in this as well. And it's just, the story itself is so well fleshed out, but the characters themselves are so well fleshed out in this short space. I feel like I've known these characters for like 300 pages by the time that I'm finished with it. The dialogue in here, the way that I had to put the book down, that's how like mind blowing I am. The way that P.J. Lee Clark writes the dialogue in this story, it's so memorable. It has this rhythm to it. P.J. Lee Clark is just honestly a one-of-a-kind storyteller, and this proves that 100 times over. Go read Ring Shout. This was phenomenal. I feel like I have nothing else to add to me talking about Ring Shout all year long. It really is worth the read. And the audiobook version is also incredible. I physically read this and then afterwards listened to the audiobook, and the performance of the audiobook, amazing. And then finally, you guys, coming in at number 1, this is a book that I just finished like right before Christmas. It just came out in December. I'm pretty sure you guys already know what it is. It's Jade Legacy. It's Jade Legacy. I don't know if anybody expected something different. It's Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. This is the third and final book in the Greenbone saga, and it's epic. This series has a place in my heart that I can't put it into words. It is just truly, the whole Greenbone saga has just truly left a massive impact on my heart and my reading life. I have never read character work like this in my entire reading life. Even by the time I was done with Jade War, which was book 2, and I also read this year. This is why I said I don't include, more than one book in a series, because Jade War could have been number 2 on this list. But even by the time I finished Jade War, I said to myself, I have never read characters like this in my life. Characters that I know better than I know some people. Like, just the impact that these characters leave on you. By the time you walk away, you feel like they are real, that you have seen them in fights, that you've been in the dining room with them eating dinner. I mean, it's so, I need a moment. Jade Legacy is one of, if not the greatest ends to a series that I have ever read, and it's not small. This book took me so long to read, and so by the end of it, I feel like I had been on this epic journey with these characters through all of these different schemes and political situations and just everything. I feel like I was part of the family. It really is that kind of feeling. And just when characters would get themselves into certain situations, like my heart would start pounding. I was crying in so many different scenes in this book. Just truly, the characters have left such a massive impact on my heart. It's just, I can't put it into words. The series progression with each book just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So if you're just completely unfamiliar with the Greenbone saga, very quickly, it is an Asian-inspired fantasy trilogy, and it takes place on this island nation called Kakan. And on Kakan, Jade is the lifeblood of this city, and so Greenbones train at these academies to be able to wear Jade and hone their abilities in different, their fighting abilities, their perception in different ways. And so, I mean, really, Jade fuels everything for Greenbone culture. Greenbones, and specifically the clan leaders, are the kind of these pillars, if you will, of society. And so throughout the books, we're following 2 major clans. The Call family, who is the main family. This is the family that the readers are sticking with throughout the story, and we're following the books through their third person, POVs. And then we also have their rivals, the Mountain Clan, and just the impact financially, just everything that the Mountain Clan has on No Peak throughout the trilogy. So that is like the basic setup of the story, and I mean like extremely basic setup of the story. And so in Jade City, book 1, we're really focused on like territory throughout Janloon and the street fighting, and it's almost like a street war in a lot of ways. And then book 2, Jade War, opens up the story so much. It just expands everything. We're in different countries, and you really see the international influence that Jade has, throughout the world, and how these other countries are trying to use Jade for their own purposes. And so that really becomes a lot of what's going on in Jade War, and how No Peak is trying to find a way to potentially expand its influence in one particular country, or if even that's the right thing to do, who knows. And then Jade Legacy, as the title suggests, it's about the kids, about the family, and the legacy not only of the Call family, but also on a larger level, what it means to be a Greenbone. What significance does Jade have, if any, by the end of this series? Oh, I'm getting emotional just talking about it. Just the expansions that happen in this story, the political maneuvering, the family moments in this book are just some of my favorite scenes ever. I loved it. I loved it so much. I feel like I've been following these characters so long, and just for it to come to an end, I think it's safe to say that I was a little heartbroken by the time I finished Jade Legacy. Fonda Lee has done something honestly phenomenal in my opinion, and it is just one of my favorite things that I've ever read. So that is my gush about Jade Legacy and the Greenbone saga. Jade Legacy is my #1 book of 2021, the best end to a series that I've ever read, and just really the pillar of my reading years. I'm gonna leave it at that. Those are the best books of 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments what were some of your favorite books of the year. I'm wishing you all a happy new year, a safe new year, and I will see you guys in 2022. Take care.